Right. Hello everyone, welcome back to another review. The game we're reviewing today is Swords and Souls Legacy Collection. So this is a collection of old Flash games, and I recently just got this sudden wave of nostalgia fall over me, and I decided, you know what? Let's do some Flash games. So me and my brother we uh, played some old Flash games, the ones that are still playable on all these emulators that now have replaced Flash on the internet. And Rogue Soul was one of the games that we played, and then I realized that wait, there's a version of Rogue Soul on Steam. We should just buy that and not use the shitty emulator. And so we did, and now I thought might as well make a review. Like, why not? I haven't uploaded in like a month, so might as well just do something. So yeah, this collection contains 5 games, 5 classic Flash games from Soul Game Studio. There's Rogue Soul 1 and 2, there's of course Swords and Souls, and there's also The Gentleman and Soul Driver. So I'm gonna, as always, split this review into 4 parts concerning gameplay, visuals, story, and soundtrack. No spoiler division this time around because I don't think there's anything that can be spoiled about these games. They're very simple and short, so yeah, no spoiler-free division this time around. We're just going straight in. So, for the gameplay, before I talk about like every game separately, I want to mention the overall performance. So, this is definitely the biggest issue with this collection is that the performance is a little bit awkward sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, it is infinitely better than all those dogshit Flash emulators that are now running all of these games in the browser, like Ruffle or whatever the fuck they're called. It's much better than those things, but the game still does lag a little sometimes, which I don't think should be the case for a paid Steam version of those games. Like, if I'm paying for something on Steam, I expect it to run super smoothly, and not like drop frames for no reason. And unfortunately, it does tend to drop frames. It's a shame because it does work better than Ruffle, but it's still not perfectly smooth, which is a bit unfortunate. I think we maybe should have put a little more effort into making making the performance of the game better. I guess they didn't really put that much effort into. Or maybe it's just really hard to do. I mean, I'm not a game developer, but anyway, the performance is not ideal, but it is better than Flash emulators. Just wanted to put that out there because I think that's the most important thing to note about these games. Right, so now let's get right into the actual games. So the game that that's always been my favorite from the studio was Rogue Soul, and especially Rogue Soul 2, but let's talk about the first one first. So I unironically think that Rogue Soul is a great game. It's super fun, super fast paced, and the movement is really good. Like, it's very precise. The game actually gives you a lot of control over how you move your character, and that's always something that I enjoy in games. It's just a very fun game overall. And Rogue Soul 2 is even better, in my opinion. Like, I think Rogue Soul 2 is the best game in the collection because it's just a better version of the first one. It has more content, it has more enemies, more stuff. Just overall, it has all those boss fights, which I think are really fun. Overall, I think the Rogue Soul games are just some of the best Flash games ever to ever to come out. I think they're super fun, especially back in the day when they like actually ran super smoothly and on Flash Player. Yeah, they were good. But there are some things to note about them, and that's well, for one, there's one more thing that I appreciate about these games, apart from the gameplay, and that apart from them actually just being fun games, and that's the fact that they fixed the biggest issue apart from the shitty performance that the Flash emulator version had, and that's hole hitboxes. For some reason, whenever you try to play this game on Ruffle, uh, the holes were just completely broken. Like the hitboxes of the holes. I mean, by holes I mean like the pits that you can fall into was like extremely big. Like the hole was actually much bigger than it appeared, which I don't think was very don't think was intended. And in in the remastered collection, they actually fixed that, which I appreciate. I think that's very good because that was a very annoying bug. Uh, but I am I and yeah, while I'm glad that that was fixed, there are also some new issues that actually weren't there in the Ruffle version, which I think was just really weird. So for one, uh, in Rogue Solo 1, there's this there's this really weird bug that sometimes when you finish a zone, the game gives you like, because every time if you finish a zone, you have the dive into the pile of hay, and then the next zone starts. But for some reason, sometimes when you when you enter another zone, the game just gives you another dive spot, and it like resets the zone. I mean, it doesn't really do anything for the gameplay, like it doesn't change much, but it's just kind of weird that like you do the dive and then a second dive just appears in front of you for some reason. It's weird and don't think should be happening, but it's not actually like game ruining. It's just really wacky and weird. And in Rogue Soul 2, there's actually an issue that I think is a bit more serious, and that's that the screen is super weirdly centered for some reason. Like, at least when you're playing in full screen mode, the the screen just feels like it's kind of centered on like I think it feels like this actual center of the quote unquote game is more to the left side of the screen, and then the right side of the screen, the very far right side of the screen, feels like it's something that you as a player are not supposed to see, because you can actually see enemies spawning in on the far right of the screen, and when you're fighting a boss, it's especially annoying when you're fighting a boss. The actual border of the screen is not on the very far right of the screen; it's like in the middle, which is pretty annoying. Like you can get used to it, but it is annoying, and I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe because the game never had like a full screen when it was flat when it was a Flash game. So maybe they couldn't adjust that to actually like make sense in a full screen setting. But that's pretty annoying. And it also had some visual glitches, some minor ones, but still, it was weird to see them. Like the descriptions for some items just cut off for some reason, and there are some effects that just kind of don't look right. Like when you kill the final boss, his death explosion particles stay on screen for like a few more seconds, and it looks really really weird. But I guess it is not like game ruining, so it's fine. And I still do believe that Rogue Soul 2 is a super, super fun game. Rogue Soul 1 too, but the second one is my favorite. It's the best game in the collection, in my opinion. Right, let's move on to Swords and Souls, which is probably the most popular of these games. And it is still really, really good. It's very addicting, very fun. You train your character, you fight in the arena, you make money, you buy better stuff. It's really cool, and it has very fast progression, which I always appreciate about Swords and Souls, because when you hear about a game like this where you train to improve your stats, then fight to get money, it does kind of feel like, at least to me, it gives me the impression that that's probably like a really tedious game, because you probably have to train for like hours to get any sort of stats, and then fight, and then to actually beat the fights and progress. Well, in Swords and Souls, no, that's not the case. You can practice for like a minute to get enough damage to, to plow through the next 5 fights. So it's a really fun game, and really and very addicting. So yeah, I do think Swords and Souls is still really good, but with the existence of Swords and Souls Never Seen, I do think it gets kind of outclassed, because Never Seen is better than the original Swords and Souls in practically every way. There's only two things that I can think of that I like better about the original Swords and Souls that I do Never Seen, and that's the training room. I think the training room in the original Swords and Souls is just a lot cozier than the training camp in Never Seen, which is just an empty field and not very interesting at all. Even when it's fully upgraded, it just looks super empty. And the dialogue, I really, really appreciate that the characters in the original Swords and Souls basically don't talk. In Never Seen, I don't know who thought this was like a fun style of dialogue. I think it's extremely infuriating, but in Never Seen, the characters just, like, I don't know, everyone's constantly just so mad. All the characters in Swords and Souls Never Seen just constantly scream at you, and there isn't a single line of dialogue that doesn't end with a triple or even more than that exclamation mark, which is pretty annoying. I mean, at least the game doesn't have voice acting, because otherwise it'd be unbearable. But yeah, just that little. Just wanted to kind of diss the the dialogue in Never Seen, because I don't really, really, really hate it. I love the game though. So Never Seen is great. I know that's not what I'm reviewing today, but it does it is related to the original game, obviously. So I was going to mention it. Yeah. So that's that. Now, I had never played The Gentleman nor The Soul Driver before, so those two were completely new experiences for me. And I think The Gentleman is a very, very fun game. It's really interesting. It has all these puzzles that it does have its own like kind of unique thing to it, let's call it, because it's a puzzle game where you're supposed to solve all these crazy puzzles, and a lot of them are actually really creative. Like, I really, really like the one with the Shadow Gentleman, where all of the obstacles in the level are invisible, and you have to follow the lead of this like shadow guy that shows you when to jump and when to roll. I think that was really, really cool. That was definitely my favorite level in the game. I think the boss fights were cool too. Like, there was a big bat boss fight. You had to jump on its head. There was this big guy who would like throw canes at you, and then you'd have to also jump on his head to beat him. And then I also really, really like the reveal at the end that the narrator that tells you like how to play the game was actually the cat all along, and he's the final boss. I think that was really cool. So yeah, I think The Gentleman is overall a very like charming game. But the the controls themselves aren't terribly intuitive. Like, the movement isn't nearly as smooth as as in Rogue Soul, and I really hate the fact that you have to press down to deactivate your umbrella. Like, it would have been much more intuitive if you had, because you have to jump by pressing space or the up arrow, and then when you jump again, you open your umbrella to slow fall, and then to close your umbrella, you have to press down. I think for me it would have been much more intuitive if you could close the umbrella by pressing jump a third time. That's definitely my biggest issue with the game, is the way you open and close the umbrella. And there were a few umbrella puzzles which were really frustrating, and I just couldn't get I couldn't exactly get into the like tempo of the umbrella, let's call it. Sometimes I just couldn't I really struggled to control the speed of everything. Where sometimes it felt like the gentleman was like rising up at a crazy speed for some reason. Other times he was barely moving upwards. I don't know. The umbrella puzzles were sometimes the umbrella and the umbrella plus fan puzzles, I mean, were not that fun. But overall, as I said, The Gentleman is a very, very charming game, in my opinion. It does have a lot of fun, unique levels. And then the last game in the collection is the Soul Driver, which is fun. It is the shortest and the easiest game in the collection, but it is very fun. Like, it's just a short session of like chaotic fun. You just drive around. You have like stars, like in GTA, where at 1 star you only have a few cop cars trying to stop you, and then at 5 stars you got fucking helicopters dropping landmines at you. You got gangsters, gangsters shooting at you from the road. You got the spike strips and roadblocks getting put in. It's a very fun, like, kind of chaotic game, but it is, like I said, the shortest in the whole collection. It's still really, really fun though. I liked it, especially when the when the cops were causing more of a disturbance to civilian life than the criminal on the run. It was really funny. But yeah, that's about it for the gameplay part. Obviously the longest, because that's what you really care about here. For the visuals, I do really like the visual style of the game. It's it's a really charming cartoon style, and it does sort of, and having all the games share this art style and this design really kind of cements this idea that it all takes place in the same universe. Maybe someday Soul Game Studio will make a game where the Soul Driver, Gentleman, and the Rogue Soul will have to work together uh, for some kind of crazy adventure. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing ideas, but you know what I mean. It's a cool visual style. Yeah. As for the soundtrack, it's nothing to like. It's nothing too crazy. I think it's just fine. I mean, I have a lot of nostalgia for some of the music in Swords and Souls and Rogue Soul. It was actually interesting to see that some of the soundtracks that I like from those games actually originated from the Soul Driver and the Gentleman. But overall, just disregarding the nostalgia, the music is nothing special. It's just kind of there. It's just fine. Yeah. As for the story, well, there isn't much of it. Yeah, this story in this story in all these games is just extremely like simple, not not a very narratively complex game. You know, you have a criminal on the run, uh, a gentleman. Okay, I guess the gentleman is a game that could potentially have some kind of deeper meaning. Like, I don't know, the symbolism of the cat and the gentleman codex maybe is something super deep that I'm just too dumb to understand. But yeah, other than that, all the games just have a very, very basic story now. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, and I guess that's about it. See you whenever I see you.